What is up? Welcome to another edition of Matchup Points here at fantasypoints.com. I'm John Hansen, Adam Caplan, Brett Whitefield here, ready to rock and roll. Our guy Trey on the other side of the glass. And this puppy, I don't know, probably only about 25 minutes with only two games. Guys, I'm sure everyone is doing well. We'll get right into it here and we'll start with it's the best weekend. Actually, no, best day of the year. So championship Sunday will kick off here with the Chiefs and the Ravens. Adam, we usually start with you. I see Marlon Humphrey. Looks like he is good to go. What is up with L'Jarius Sneed? What are the injuries here?
Yeah, Humphrey's actually not good to go, but he'll probably play. He's had this calf injury for nearly 2 months. He just battles through it. Mark Andrews should get cleared. Not a lock, but he should get cleared. Now, the question would be, how much can he play? The first game in over 2 months. What's the conditioning like? That's why he didn't play last week. That's something to watch. And then, but the Chiefs are really banged up. Derek Nottie, one of their starting D tackles, who's got the elbow/triceps injury. He probably won't play. He didn't play last week. Forget about Sky Moore. Pacheco, they've rested him. He's got ankle and toe injuries. This has been on purpose. Now, if he doesn't work tomorrow, then I'd be concerned for sure. But I don't get this sense of any panic. Joe Tooney's got the pectoral strain. That's a tough injury to play with. And Willie Gay's got the reoccurrence of his neck injury. That's why he got taken out of the game and didn't get cleared to come back in. So of the two teams, clearly Kansas City is the team that's got the injuries.
Brett, matchup wise here, I mean, what stands out to you? I think pretty good matchup for Lamar. They do play a lot of man. They've got myriad weapons here. What are you seeing out of Lamar? It looks like Isaiah Likely has been a guy that he's been looking toward, for bigger plays, I guess often against man. They do seem to be peaking right now offensively.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Lamar's looked great down the stretch. I think he had a very brief window early in the year where, it wasn't all coming together, but he's been the clear MVP, I think, for half the season now. I mean, he last 6 games, top 4 in yards per attempt, passer rating, and against most coverage shells as well. There's not really a clear way to beat him. To your point about the Kansas City Chiefs man coverage deployment, they play man more than any team in the NFL. They're obviously more than any team left in the playoffs. And I think, kind of what you saw last week with the Bills and the way Josh Allen exploited that, you'll see more of that from Lamar. So if he sees, the backs of defensive backs jerseys running away from him, he's going to look to run the football. And I think that's a smart game plan. I would, he should flirt with 100 yards rushing in this game.
What do we think about, Adam, L'Jarius, he is still limited with a calf. So, again, it's the playoffs. Win or go home.
He'll play. Yeah, he's had this for a couple of weeks. By the way, I don't know, forecasts can change, but looking at hour by hour during the game, that's the only thing that matters. Unless it changes, it's going to rain. We're going to have rain in that game. So, unfortunately, wind is not too bad, but we'll see what the rain looks like on Sunday. But right now, it is from kickoff until the end of the game. It should rain for most of the game, again, unless it changes. And by the way, the total is fluctuated from 44 to 44.5, and the Ravens are still a 3.5 point favorite.
Yeah, it's a lower total. It's raining in Baltimore. Cue the Counting Crows. I think I said that last week, but quarterbacks throwing wet balls at them. I used to keep track of that. Like Carson Palmer was not good. Do you have any recollection on Lamar throwing a wet ball? I don't have any recollection of it being problematic.
No, I haven't. Did it rain last week in the game? I forget.
Yeah.
I don't remember it being a problem. So
no.
And Mahomes could do it. He's done it. I mean, Mahomes, in fact, the game that, although he didn't play great in that game against Philly when they blew that 10-point lead at halftime. But that's when they were struggling. So yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I'm more worried about the Chiefs' defensive injuries. Oh, Mike Edwards has been starting at safety because one of the guys is out for the season. He's got a concussion now. He started working today. That's a good sign. They need him because they would have to start this rookie, the 4th rounder.
Yeah, Connor.
Yeah, who Andy Reid gave props to Brett Veach, their their GM for finding this kid. Yeah. Chamari Connor, number 27 out of Virginia Tech. Yeah, he got thrown in there, did a nice job.
Brett, are we looking at Legarius shadow situation here with Zay Flowers? I mean, that's got to be the alpha that you're picking out if you're picking out someone.
Yeah, I think we'll see Snead on Zay Flowers for sure. I mean, the thing is, Zay moves around a lot. He'll play in the slot a good bit, 25 to 40% of the snaps. So I'd imagine Snead probably goes with OBJ in those situations. But we saw Houston give Flowers the shadow treatment last week with Derek Stingley. So I think that's kind of the way teams are, that have the capability to shadow. They're going with Zay Flowers as the guy there. So that's not good for Zay, by the way.
And how are they exactly? I don't know, not to put you on the spot, but working in Bateman because technically Bateman is not a starter, but it feels like he's coming on.
Yeah, he's. I think, gosh, we talked about it a couple times down the stretch. It's like the explosiveness is there. Clearly, there's some type of broken trust there. It seems like probably the hands early in the year were really bad, but he is coming on. A lot of contested catch stuff has worked out. He's made some big plays downfield. So. I don't know what percentage of snaps he'll get in this game, but he'll definitely get some for sure. Aguilar is, nothing special. For whatever reason, he's kind of fallen into their slot receiver role.
Yeah. And when he's in there, he'll see, McDuffie is good.
Yep.
Jalen Watson is the guy you want to get on. So question is, will that be Bateman or OBJ? For what it's worth, Brett, I'll start with you. OBJ, the damn number is up from when I was talking it up this morning. Of course, on Sirius XM, it's up to 22.5, but I'd probably roll the dice on that. It's hit or miss, but he does show up for big games.
Yeah, and I'll say this. If Zay is going to catch the Snead shadow, you've got Mark Andrews, who first game in a long time if he plays. OBJ is the next guy. He is the next guy. I think some of the numbers about his efficiency lately are lying to us because of the game script, right? They haven't had a game script that's required him to be productive. So like last week, for example, a lot of routes run in the first half, second half, he was mostly run blocking or not playing. Like it was, so I think,
they're resting him.
Yeah, they're exactly. They're resting him, making sure he's healthy. I think you could see that route participation and target share go way up this week.
Adam, what's your confidence level in the backfield here? A guy like Justice Hill. It's week 20, and the guy just got 13 carries, team high this past week.
Yeah.
Caught a couple of balls. He is like that changeup guy. So that might be a little week to week. But do you have confidence that we can trust Justice Hill with like?
Well, here's the thing. If you watched the game last week in the beginning, Hill was the first guy in. It was kind of odd. I understand they have a rotation, but that was interesting. So it means it's a two-man backfield. And then Dalvin later in the game in the third quarter got some run. He had the one really nice run of 19 yards. The rest of them didn't do much. But yeah, I would say my trust level is he's clearly in the rotation. He's clearly got a role. And that's it. Yeah, he's been kind of a nice little surprise here. Where the thought had always been Gus Edwards would be the guy, but now because they want some juice, I think you hit on it. Gus doesn't have the juice. He's really not that type of back. In fact, I remember when they first got him, there was some talk about him being a fullback.
He was a fullback. I think he was buried on the depth chart. They had injuries ahead of him, I guess.
Yeah, he's built like a fullback too. He had the straight line speed, but really he's a power runner. That's what he is.
Yeah, John, I can't remember who the other back was there with Ingram. But we can move on.
No, I got some data on Hill, by the way.
Oh, yeah. What do you have?
First half of last week, when that game was competitive, he played 70% of the snaps.
Yeah, there you go.
72% of the passing downs as well. Gus the Bus finished with just 38% snap share, and a lot of that came in the second half, actually, when it was out of hand. And they needed the hammer to kind of close that game out. I think that's when Dalvin and Gus got in the game, but Hill dominated the snaps early in the game. So
yeah, I viewed him a little bit of a week-to-week matchup guy, but that's only in terms of does he have a real nice role? Because he had a role pretty much every single week. So it's one of these examples of this guy, can't believe this guy's still on the roster. But apparently he's on the roster for a reason. They like him, and he's actually not bad. The tight end situation, very difficult. I don't know, Brett, if you have any insight there. the one thing I will say is it does seem like they're using Likely as a man beater of sorts in case he plays a lot of man.
Yeah, Andrews and Likely both are man beaters. So that's, hey, and the one way you've been able to beat Kansas City this year is with the tight end. I think they give up 6 points to inline tight ends, adjusted fantasy points. That's one of the worst numbers in the league. So you can't beat them there.
They have given up 6 catches a game in their last 4 for 56 yards for what it's worth. But over for the KC side of things, Baltimore plays a decent amount of man. That's good. But I think overall, I don't know about this one for Mahomes. It's a tough one because, he was out of this world in the playoffs compared to the body of work all year. I would say it was outstanding. It was like, 2022 and back, but this is a pretty uniquely challenging matchup. I feel like I'm leaning on the body of work for KC. So I say they're on the struggle bus here.
Yeah, this could be tough. It's interesting because Mahomes does well against some of the shells that Baltimore plays, but Baltimore's just so different because of the way they disguise everything. So one interesting note on Baltimore too is their blitz rate's like gone way down throughout the year. Like they're down under 20% the last 5 games, which is kind of crazy. Especially when you think about the way they flood that line of scrimmage with bodies, and they simulate pressure really well, making you think you're under pressure when you're not, but they're not actually following through with blitzes. And I wonder, how Kansas City will choose to game plan around that. But, typically if you want to slow down Mahomes, it is muddying that sight picture at the post snap there. So I think Baltimore could have some success with that. The big key for me is Baltimore's run defense is terrible. So
real quick, close off that thought real quick. Joe Tooney.
Yeah, he's got a pectoral strain. That's not easy to come back from in 1 week. He's no lock. Yeah, they're not sure yet if he's going to be able to play. Nick Allegretti started a bunch of games. I mean, obviously it'd be a big drop off, but it's not like he's never played. If you watched the game, the Texans offense closely, first of all, they only scored 3 points on offense last week. Everything they got was they had a shot play to Collins, but it was a struggle. It's the teams tell me that it's Baltimore's coverages are really hard to decipher. Mike McDonald does a great job. Mm-hmm. You don't need when you cover this way, when you disguise so well, you don't have to have great pass rushers. Yet they have good sack numbers this season. So this is going to. I know Mahomes has played better. This is going to test his patience. This is not easy. This is a tough one.
And then another thing, Brett, that might not be easy is I would argue Rashee Rice has been his check down Charlie, if you will, and kind of the security blanket, getting first read looks, individually, he's going to be on like Marlon Humphrey or Kyle Hamilton a lot. So he's got a tough matchup.
Yeah. I think the Kyle Hamilton one doesn't really scare me. Hamilton he does well with bigger slots and
sure.
Now, granted, Ravens have pivoted to more zone coverages lately. So maybe that's where, that matchup, you're living on Kyle Hamilton's instincts versus his man coverage ability.
And Rashee likes himself some zone.
He does. And he's really effective against cover 3 and cover 6, 2, shells that Baltimore plays a lot of. So that could bode well for Rashee for sure. But for him, it's all about breaking tackles and yards after catch. If he's not getting that guy, like he'll get his looks, he'll get his catches. For him, though, it's about making the most of them.
And Adam, to Brett's point about Casey's run or Baltimore's run defense, Ravens allowed the 6th most adjusted yards before contact per attempt, 4.5 yards per carry. I could absolutely see Andy Reid converting to leather helmets before kickoff and just looking to just slow down the game and run the ball.
Well, look, Pacheco was terrific last week. I mean, he didn't CH had that nice 28-yard run, really good vision. It just depends on what works. We have to see what the rain looks like. They got to navigate through that. And Pacheco hold up with the 2 injuries. That's always a concern. And it was good to see Kelsey score those 2 touchdowns. That was they really needed that, because if you're shutting down Rice, the MVS had a couple shot plays. That was nice, but it's hard. It's hard for Kansas City. It's still not anywhere close to what we've seen with their pass game in the past. They're not close to it.
Yeah. Well, and much tougher matchup this week for Kelsey. Kelsey has like this long, lucrative history of crushing the Bills, and Baltimore haven't given up a touchdown, for example, to a tight end in 4 weeks. All right. I think we've covered every angle there. So let's head on over to the NFC battle here. Brett Whitefield's Detroit Lions at the San Francisco 49ers. Adam, Thursday evening doing this here. So, still some time on Debo, but where are you? Where are we with Debo?
Yeah, Debo was working today, so not a lot. They're not going to let him do a lot. Then they'll see how he is tomorrow after getting work today. The key is contact. Anytime you have a shoulder injury, you got to be able to take contact on it. Remember, he had the hairline fracture earlier this season, missed some time. You saw how Purdy struggled without him, because Debo is their possession receiver, run after the catch. He's super important to what they do. Purdy did not look right in that game. I've talked to 3 people who watched the tape already. They all seem to agree that Purdy was not comfortable. You give him credit for bringing him back. He just was not really good in that game. I'm sure Debo had something to do with it. By the way, CMC's off the injury report with that right calf issue, so that was good. They were just massaging actually his thigh, not his calf. Last week, I know people were watching, was actually his thigh.
He gets a lot of work done on the sidelines.
He does. I know. He did. Look, he gets sore. Now,
the Doc Addicts noticed that and brought that up on the radio.
He does, right. It's actually his thigh. I was talking to someone with the Niners about that. But
he actually thinks real quick that it's a technique, it's an approach that they've changed this year, and maybe it's correlating to his ability, his health this year.
Yeah, keep him fresh. Yeah, keep the leg fresh. But actually, both. But the Lions are the team not concerned about. They're down 2 tight ends. Zach Ertz probably will dress for the game. I mean, they're going to have to, because they need 3 tight ends. Jonah Jackson's not playing. Awashika, the kid from Eagles, had him last year, was an undrafted free agent. They signed him off the Eagles practice squad. He's going to start. He's a tackle at Buffalo who's playing guard now. We'll see how that works. Ragnow has his 4th injury. He's going to play. Somehow he's going to get through it. Cleve Raymond's not going to play. Laporta's playing with a brace on his left knee. I give the guy credit. He's doing the best that he can.
Look good.
Yeah, I mean, he looked fine.
He's Gumby.
But he doesn't move quite. They were talking about that on the broadcast. He's not moving quite as well because he's wearing the brace. But of the 2 teams, they're the team that's really banged up. Of course, then you have the Debo thing. No rain, by the way. It'll be fine in Santa Clara on Sunday.
Real quick, what do you think about a Decoy Samuel situation? If he suits up, might he just be more decoy than involved?
Idea. It's strictly. Well, on that, there are 2 things to look at. Either he's going to be able to play his number role, and he could take, because his number role is also getting the ball, jet motion, whatever the case, inside handoff, or whatever the case may be, and being receiver. On your point, if they think he can only do certain things, but just having him out there is important, because and also Juwan Jennings is an okay player, but Debo's pretty gifted. Yeah,
you can give him the ball near the line of scrimmage a couple times. Give the defense a look. Here's a threat on the field. While we're talking Debo, Brett, I guess we can start with the Niners here and their offensive outlook here. Obviously, Detroit giving up plenty of numbers. Baker Mayfield and Stafford have crushed them. Don't know about Debo, and the weaponry is a little limited, although Juwan Jennings is balling the F out. Ayuk should crush. It's a good spot for Purdy here. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I think across the board, the matchups are nice. If Detroit's going to play more zone, they've pivoted to some more fire zone lately. They're still blitz heavy, but fire zone, that cover 3 blitz look, the lines have been given teams, and that's where Debo comes into play. He's going to catch a shallow or some type of screen to bust that blitz. And then on the flip side, if they're going to go back to playing a lot of man, I think Ayuk versus Cam Sutton, Ayuk versus Kindle Vildor, those are winnable matchups. I am curious to see what they do with Sutton, because he actually shadowed Mike Evans last week. That was only the second time all season.
Well, then I would guess, Brett, that he'll do it to Ayuk.
Seems that way. It seems like they really don't trust Vildor.
Yeah.
They're just so beat up at corner with Jacobs now out for the season. And then, the Emmanuel Mosley experience did not work out. He tore his ACL the first game back. So they're a little high and dry there. I can't believe they haven't tried. There's no reason to speculate on it, but Can't believe they haven't tried Branch at corner or even Melifonwu, who is a converted corner to safeties. I can't believe they haven't done that before Vildor. But anyways,
I mean, they think, talking to them, Brett, they think Branch is actually one of the best outside corners. On your point, I don't know why they're not doing
I
it.
watched it all training camp, Adam. It was like
he's awesome.
he was playing outside corner in the second unit a lot, and then he'd go play nickel with the starters.
He was their nickel, right?
Yeah,
so the 2 days I was there, one of the guys high up said, he goes, I think he might be one of our best outside corners.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know why Vildor's out there. I mean, I do and I don't. I get it because they're down at corner, but if you want to be a legit Super Bowl team, he cannot be on the field.
Yeah, it's tough. So I guess the positive thing for Detroit defense, if there is a positive, is that they're getting home on 62% of their blitzes right now.
Wow,
which is insane. Purdy he's turned to mush in those situations when the blitz is getting home. He is real. I mean, you saw it last week against the Packers. He just it shuts off for him. He starts getting panicky. So if there's an angle for Detroit here defensively, it's that their blitz has been really effective. They've been super opportunistic. They're averaging over 2 turnovers a game the last 6 games. Getting a lot of sacks, drive ending type sacks too. Getting sacked on a blitz is way worse than getting sacked from a 4-man rush, because typically when a 4-man rush is coming, you have time to slide, step. You're getting tackled 3-4 yards behind the line of scrimmage, where when you get sacked on a blitz, it's usually 10. You're at the top of your drop getting hit. So the Lions have led the NFL in what they call drive ending sacks the last 6 weeks, which is kind of cool. So it should be a nice battle there. I mean, this molding the Detroit defense has done, where they've completely transformed who they are identity wise, from the first 14 weeks of the season to now. And then San Francisco is such an elite, offense, and the way they scheme it up. Kyle Shanahan, this should be a legit battle. I'm excited.
John, it's insane. You know who started defensive tackle for the Lions last week off the scrap heap?
Tyson Alulu?
Tyson Alualu, yes.
Yes, third in a row.
It's insane. It's insane that he's still playing. In fact, I was at the draft, and that's how long ago it was at Madison Square Garden. Tells you how long ago that when he was drafted by the Jaguars. Yeah.
Yeah, you were at the draft when it was in that little hotel in like the
the one that was on 30 for 30 with Marvin Demoff. But no, it's the way that teams tell you that you beat if you can get pressure, it's going to be on the inside against Burford or Aaron Banks or Brendel. That's how you do it. Either by stunts. You got to figure out a way to get inside, because quarterbacks hate inside pressure. And Purdy's pretty smart, but he doesn't always see it. I'm interested to see if the Lions could figure out a way to get pressure on the inside, because if they're going to win this game, they got to move Purdy off the spot. And this team can't come from behind like that. I know they did last week, but they're so structured, they're so programmed. Man, if the Lions could get a nice little lead in this game the second half, oh boy.
Yeah. Brett, I think there are some similarities here between Purdy and Goff. And, I saw some data that somebody tweeted that outside of our organization, but they used our data that showed like San Fran could in ways be a tough matchup for Goff, who does a lot of his best work between the numbers, and they're lights out between the numbers. Yep. So
they are.
Compare and contrast that, because Kittle will be going up against, Derek Barnes and, Anzalone and all those guys. I mean, talk about those two matchups.
Yeah, so Kittle versus Anzalone. Like, Anzalone's been very good in coverage this year for the Lions. He was good for the Saints in coverage. I think the first year in Detroit, that team was just so bad. Like, I think Anzalone kind of got a bad rap, but he earned that contract he got last year. That was the 3 years, $18 million. Like, I feel like he really did earn that. I'm not going to say it's a plus matchup for him. You don't want to ever have to cover Kittle in man coverage. That's a nightmare. So definitely a favorable matchup for Kittle there. But on the other side, like Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, I forget the safety's name for Hufanga. Like, these guys, they lock down the middle of the field, and Warner can run with any tight end in the league. There's not a lot of a lot of people say running backs don't matter. I'm one of the guys that say linebackers don't matter unless you have Fred Warner or Levante David last week. I think that's the one plus, is that the Lions have now seen Levante David twice. They saw the Bears, who have a really good linebacking unit, twice, and they got some good reps in. Oh, actually, they saw Baltimore too with Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith. So I do think they have enough self-scout tape to maybe mitigate some of that. But you're right; they're going to have to push the ball outside the numbers. You saw it last week when there was a point in that game where Levante was starting to take over, and Sam Laporta, even when he was catching the ball, it was for 3-4 yards at times, And there was a point where they had to make the decision. We're going to throw the ball outside the numbers. That's when they got JMO involved on a deep one, Josh Reynolds, Amon-Ra on the flat a little bit, but it's definitely something they're going to have to make a concerted effort to get the ball outside the numbers.
A couple things here, John.
Ufanga is on IR, by the way.
Yeah. I was going to get that. The Niners are super old at safety with Logan Ryan off the scrap heap with Gibson.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody wants to go after Ambry Thomas, who just came
out. Logan Ryan out there.
What's that?
Logan Ryan a little, maybe?
Yeah, no. Logan Ryan starts it. Jair Brown, here's what happened. He's had this knee problem. And they were not sure if he could play full load, so they started Logan Ryan. I mean, with the way that Detroit schemes up, Ben Johnson's going to go after those older safeties.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the Lions, too, it's going to start and end with the run game. Like, I talked about this on your show yesterday morning, John. Like, everyone looks at the raw numbers of San Fran's run game, and they think they have a good run defense, but they really don't. The reality is that they've had a game script that's very favorable to run defense all season long. They're usually blowing teams out, which means teams either don't run the ball against them, or early in the game when they tried to run, it didn't work. When you actually look at neutral game scripts, San Francisco's got one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. You saw that last week with Aaron Jones. He was carving them up. And on that outside zone
killed him.
Yep, outside zone, which the Lions have been running outside zone more than any team in the NFL the last 5 weeks.
Nice.
The Lions also run that penne power, they call it, where they're not pulling the guard, they're pulling penne across the entire formation with a little misdirection. That's been killing teams. I think 49ers are, they're weak against that look for sure.
Penne should start his own food company selling pancakes. Penne's pancakes.
Yes.
This might be the most deceiving stat on a run D ever, because all the data is good on the Niners run D. Allowed the third fewest adjusted yards before contact, fourth fewest rushing yards per game. But again, it's all, I guess, contextual, and the context was always in their favor, or more often than not in their favor.
Yeah. I give Greg Olson a lot of credit on the broadcast last week. He actually did a really good job breaking that down.
Yeah.
And he even said, guys, the numbers are lying to you. Like, the San Fran defense is not, their run defense is not very good. You saw it last year with Philly in the NFC Championship game. I mean, Philly completely controlled the clock with that run game. So,
so before we move on and wrap it, any individual, Amon-Ra, I know our data looks really good there. Maybe a little Jameson play against Ambry Thomas, perhaps.
Yeah, if he gets Ambry Thomas, for sure they're gonna light that up. I wouldn't be shocked to see Ward travel with Jameson, because I just don't know if Ambry can run with JMO. Like, that's a scary thought to me.
And they've done that. In fact, Kyle was talking about that when they put Ward on Metcalf earlier this season. They'll do that if they think they got to shut someone down. But that'd be fascinating to see what they do.
You think they would do Ward on JMO?
No, I'm just saying. What I'm saying is, if they think there's someone they absolutely have to shut down, they're going to do that.
Yeah, fair. I kind of look at it, especially if he's sizable.
JMO doesn't get the ball a lot. He plays a ton of snaps. He just doesn't get the ball.
Can Ward run with JMO though?
He's got a better chance of doing it than the other two dudes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Amon-Ra plays in the slot enough that I don't think he would draw a shadow, because that's totally switching up your defense. Ward is an outside guy, so.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, and then the last one would be back to the running game real quick. I think you mentioned it, but just so we're clear, San Fran, the type of runs that San Fran struggles with, it would appear on paper more of a Gibbs game running, correct?
Yeah, for sure. I still think Montgomery will get volume, of course. I think those runs will be less effective for Detroit and more of a means to set up the rest of the offense.
Yeah,
They're going to use Montgomery as the hammer, but I do think Gibbs will have explosive runs in this game.
Oh, there it is. Well, 29 minutes. We kind of milked it. Hey, Guru, why does Jeff Mans have a site called Fantasy Guru? That is because I sold that website, and he worked for the company that has that website. There's a Johnny come lately, I guess, just noticing now that that's the case. But we digress, and we wrap it up here. We thank Trey, we thank Tommy, and Mr. Adam Caplan, and Mr. Brett Whitefield. Brett, I just want to say good luck to your Detroit Lions.
I'm pulling for
Let's
them. I
go.
love the Lions.
Let's go.
Yeah, I'm pulling for you in a sadistic way as a Vikings fan, because it's just going to be a horrific look for the Minnesota Vikings if the Detroit Lions make the Super Bowl, because the Minnesota Vikings haven't been there in like 50 years.
I've rooted for the Vikings for the same exact reason, so I think that's fair, completely fair. The miracle against New Orleans, like I was completely pulling for Minnesota in that game to make Matt Patricia look terrible.
Oh, that's not that hard to do.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll wrap it up here. Thanks for watching. Continue to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Enjoy those games. We'll talk to you next time here at fantasypoints.com.